So the next widget we're going to look at is text field, which is implemented in tkinter as an entry widget. These are very common on GUIs, so we have a little a field, usually a single line of text where the user enters some information. And then we can easily get that information using the get method. So whatever they type in, we can get hold of that in the program and do something with it. So in this example, the next example, we'll see some typical usage where we have a text field where the user enters some data. We have a button which tells the GUI to process that data. And then we have a widget, which in this case is a label again, where we output the result of that processing. Okay, so here's the code. The button and the label are exactly the same to start with. So this bottom half of the code is exactly the same. We've now got, at the top half though, we've now got this text field, txt, which uses this entry widget. We can say how wide it's going to be. And notice we put it on the grid, we put it in column 0, row 0. So back in that empty slot that we'd left there for it. And then when the button is pressed, that means we've told tkinter to use the function clicked by telling it the command is clicked. So it in the function clicked, it creates a string which consists of the word hello plus whatever's in the text field. So this txt field, and then that gets then put onto the label. So lbl.configure, and we set the text in the label. Don't get confused between the text text, which is what's going in the label, and txt, which is the name of our text field. So we set the label to be whatever the result is, which is the hello plus their name. So this is what it looks like to start with, and then when the user types in the word Chris and hits the button, then the label, notice the label there has changed from hello to hello Chris. Okay, so we can also write to text field. So it's not really sophisticated to communicate with the user through labels. It's better to use text fields. Labels, I mean, this is just a kind of general point, but labels on GUIs are usually fixed, right? So they're just a piece of text that's telling you what's on the GUI. That's what users would be used to. If you want to communicate with the user, usually you'd use a text field or some other means. But it's just slightly harder to do that. So what we have to do to set the contents of a text field is to create a special variable which is bound to the text field. So in this case, it's a string variable. So it's called StringVar, which is, again, part of the tkinter module. And that StringVar just contains a string. And then when we want to change the contents of the text field, we change the contents of the string var, and that then automatically changes the contents of the text field. So we use the set method of the string var to update the variable, and then that text field automatically displays whatever's stored in that string var. So whenever we use set to change the contents of that string var, then it will appear in the text field. And this is quite a common approach in tkinter. So it uses these special variables, so string var, there's other boolean var, int var, to control information which then appears in the widgets. Okay, so here's the example. So now we've got two text fields in this one. We've got the input text, which is the one we had before. So that's where the user types something in, and when the button is clicked, we get the contents of the input text field and do something with it. But in this case, rather than putting the contents on a label, this hello plus the name, rather than putting it on a label, we put it in output. And output, as you'll see down here, output is a string variable. And this string variable is bound to this other text field. So you'll notice now we've got two of these entry things, one at the top, one at the bottom. One is the input that the user types into, the other is the output, and that's bound to this variable. When I say bound, it means that that variable is now associated with that text field. So whenever we change the variable, the text field changes accordingly. And apart from that, everything else is configured more or less the same. So the columns and rows are the same. So the string var controls what appears in the text field. Okay, and it's bound to that text field. And then when the user, when we use this click method, when the users press the button, that's when the output gets set. So there's the design initially, and when the user types their name in and hits the button, then the output appears. I think I should show you that, shouldn't I? So here's the code. Control-Shift F10 to run it. There's the field. If I type some text in there, hit the click me, then the output text field goes to hello plus whatever text I've typed in. Okay, just to finesse this, make it slightly better, we're going to make a couple of minor improvements to enhance the user experience. The first is that the focus is automatically set to the input text field when the GUI starts up. So I don't know if you noticed, but when I ran this before, let's run it again. I have to click on this text field to type into it. So what's a nicer way of giving the user a better user experience is that the focus automatically appears there, and the user can then start typing straight away without having to click on the GUI. And the output text field is then going to be read-only. So in this one, I can type some text in, hit click me, and then I can change the text in the output field. Okay, not great, because that's the output from the program. So we want to stop the user from being able to type in there, and then in this new version, we'll be able to do that by making the output text field read-only. So here's the code for doing that. There's only 2 extra lines of code. One is that we can say input text.focus, and that means that when the GUI starts up, when we call this the main loop at the bottom of the program to get the whole thing started up, the focus goes to the input text field, so the user can just start typing in. The second one is that the output text field is set to read only. So when we run it, there you go. It looks like that. Okay, so it's grayed out in the sense that the background is no longer white, it's gray, and the user can no longer type in that. To show you that. So when I run it, you'll notice the cursor's already blinking in the text field. I can type something in, hit click me, and I can't adjust whatever's in there. I can't delete it or anything. Okay, let's finish the video there and then look at some more widgets.